I have to admit I was hesitant when I was invited to speak here today, because I had a look at this speakers list and I thought, what the heck could I possibly have to offer compared to the wisdom that you're going to be hearing tonight? And I'm horrified to say that I've been absolutely vindicated. We had Della sharing the wisdom that everybody does have stuff going on and that compassion is important. And it's true, and in the interests of transparency rather, I have something going on. I just found out what happens to Judi Dench in Skyfall about an hour ago. John Almond, who taught us that when things are at their best, that may be the time to change. And to all of you, I should therefore give the warning that the best moment of the speech was about 7 seconds ago. Linda, your wonderful presentation with that fantastic Wonder Woman figurine. I think I speak for millions of comic geeks when I say, you kept a figurine that valuable in a window? What were you thinking? Charlene, who spoke of the wisdom of early tech adoption. I have a beta invitation for the brain implant for Google Glass. I will give it to you if you'd like. Karen, who spoke so eloquently about the virtues and beauty of ignoring a yield sign. And it's a story I hope I can invite you to recount on my behalf at traffic court a week from Monday, because I really think it would help. Roxanne, and I have some wonderful news, by the way. I just heard on Twitter, apparently that's just been picked up for 5 more episodes by Netflix. And Maureen's marvelous presentation, I have to say, I would hear her on a stage. I would hear her in a rage. I enjoyed her to the point I'd even sit through PowerPoint. Jennifer, you single-handedly rehabilitated my idea of band camp. And Mary, if I can just make one request, it would make my day if you could start a line of yoga wear that would work for whatever that pose is where you sit in front of a computer screen for 10 hours a day, because it just doesn't seem to be working for me. So with all of that wisdom on tap, I said there is no way I can possibly contribute to that, and they told me there is a remote chance that you might win a wonderful door prize from Blends, and I said I will just make something up. And here I am. This is the year that I turned 50 years old. You picked up that cue, I thank you. One of the side effects of turning 50 years old is that the glasses keep coming off and on, depending on whether I have to read something up close or see it far away. Vanity is quickly going by the wayside. Bifocals are in my future. And I think that speaks to the fact that we are constantly, whether we realize it or not, going through a process of reinvention. The world around us is changing, the way we work is changing, our culture is changing, and our jobs, even if we keep the same title for years on end, our jobs are changing as well, especially in the field of communications. And embracing that kind of reinvention and understanding it, I think that is the thing that I wish I'd known 30, 40 years ago, 50. I went through a process of reinvention when I was informed in rapid succession by the voters of Canada and by the voters of Ontario that my services as a political communicator on behalf of the New Democratic Party were no longer required. Thank you. And I came to British Columbia on the last train out of Ontario before the Harris government took over. At that point, probably the last thing I wanted to do was speech writing. But the thought of reinventing myself as a West Coast speechwriter actually held a certain appeal, particularly because I'd been hearing about this guy Harcourt. I'd been hearing about him. I had never heard him speak. And when I went into the cabinet office and said, you know what I would really love to do? I would love to write speeches. And they said, well, as it turns out, we have a vacancy for a speechwriter. And they sat me down in front of a computer and gave me 1 hour to bang out 10 minutes for the opening of a mine. They put a news release in front of me. When they did that, I sat down, looked at the blank screen, fingers poised over the keyboard, and realized I have no idea on earth what this guy sounds like. I don't know what he talks like. I don't know his cadence. I don't know his word choices. I don't know his idioms. I know nothing about this man except that he's as follically challenged as I'll be in about 10 years. And I sat there frozen for a good 40 minutes, starting one sentence, backspacing over it, starting another, backspacing over it. Until, with about 10 minutes to go, and the need to type in real time looming, I heard a voice. I heard Mike Harcourt's voice in my head. I knew it, that amazing staccato rhythm, the repetitions, the way, that slight lilt to it. And I started typing, and I wrote it, and I handed it in, and I headed back home, walking in the glorious sunshine in front of the harbor, thinking I own this town, until it struck me that what I was hearing was not Mike Harcourt, it was the double exposure imitation of Mike Harcourt. And what I had written was in the voice of a parody of the man. And it dawned on me at that moment that I had two options. I could go home and wait to hear the undoubtedly angry phone call from the Premier's office, or the harbor was right next to me. I could just cut out the middleman and jump in. I opted for home. And an agonizing day later, the call came, and apparently Mike Harcourt had said, "Finally, you found somebody who can capture my voice." There are constant opportunities to reinvent yourself, and there are constant necessities to reinvent yourself. Not every opportunity is going to be true to you. I can recall back in the days when I shaved my head, doing it for the first time. My wife videotaped it because we thought it would be a funny way to horrify our parents. We posted it online, thought very little else of it, and then about 3 months later, I noticed this massive surge on our web server, and it was huge, and it was all people watching this video. And it turned out they were all coming from a website devoted to people, guys who really liked to watch other guys shave their heads. And briefly looking at some of the other videos on this site, I recognized that I had stumbled into an entire genre, and that a door was open before me if I wanted, that, for lack of a better term, would be online fetish pornography. And after careful consideration, I decided not to walk through that door. In retrospect, financially it might have been the wrong choice, but not every reinvention is an authentic one. I think that was a sound decision, if not fiscally, then from some degree of principle. I'm proud of that one, but I'm not proud of the opportunities that I've passed up because of fear or anxiety. And honestly, I think that's probably the single biggest obstacle to reinvention. It's the single biggest obstacle to growth. For years and years, I would cartoon, I would write jokes and speeches, I would utter snide asides, but the idea of getting up on a stage and telling jokes terrified me. And I didn't do it. I found excuses not to. I decided that there just wasn't any time to try to become a stand-up comic, even though there was a voice at the back of my head that was screaming out punchlines. And I can remember the moment that I was on a bus, headed up to Bancroft to visit my parents, both of whom were dying of cancer. And it was that moment that the phrase "life is too short" suddenly hit me. And I was flooded with regrets. The regret at not having seen them more often. the regret at not having been in touch more, the regret of all the opportunities to talk to them that I'd missed, and the regret that this was a side of me that they would never be able to see. They died very soon after that. Not long after that, I enrolled in a course in stand-up comedy. I ended up doing it at Langara College, and the graduation for it was an 8-minute set, and I damn near brought the house down. It was a fine moment, and the only regret that I have about it is that it hadn't come sooner. There is a saying that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. You know, if we are afraid of our regrets, if we're afraid of making mistakes, then it is really useful to remember that we are the sum of our mistakes and our successes. We're the sum of our deeds. We're the sum of these things that we've done. And we learn from some and we take solace and comfort in others, but they are all part of who we are and they all move us forward. And embracing those and respecting those, I think that is really the key to growth. Regret is not a futile emotion. It helps us learn. And the process of learning makes us who we are. If I had known then if I knew today, or if I knew then what I had today, I would be 100 years old, because it has taken those 50 years to make me who I am. I think that's true of all of us. And so I'm going to suggest that really the single biggest thing that we can do to learn from our own past is to look at our mistakes, hug them close, and run with them. Learn from them, cherish them, and go out and make some new ones. Thank you very much.